Well, hello everyone. Here right here, I'm talking about understanding about playtime is me time right here, and you see this right here that I went and put this right here, like if it was supposed to be like some sort of activity game or something like that. But you see this right here, I talk about why yes, you feel smarter whenever you do speak the very first thought that comes to your mind, but still, whenever we do guess something that we think we are thinking, we are thinking more, but how can time tell? And if we were to study about how we use time, don't we think that we could come to learn about the fact that time can be yours for fun, the way that you think, and then for which I am talking about whenever you do play a game and whenever you win and then whenever you play very well, to get to know from where you start. So it sure seems that way that whenever you do think about any sorts of activity game that you're working on, right? It's like pick a number between 5 and 11, and you always want to know too as to where that you got these numbers right here, but I really don't even know if anybody would be able to guess about, between bigger or smaller numbers and about what, age that you think that you were at whenever you were first learning your multiplication tables. And so, in case if anybody's wondering, as to where, yeah, about how many paws, how many, like how many fingers do you think are on each paw or something like that. But still, that each time we think about that, then your words toward yeah, between 5 and 7, and 6 and 9, and 8 and 10, right here, and so it sure seems that way that whenever we do talk about picking a number right here, or talk about playing any sorts of game, that you're thinking is toward, oh, okay, yeah, that so if you were to actually pick a number between 5 and 11, that you would always want to know too is to where do you want to go with the bigger number or the smaller number? Because maybe people would say is to where, yeah, I'll go ahead and go with the 5 and 7. Or some people may say that I'll go ahead and go with the 8 and the 10. But, really, that I guess according to the game that you're supposed to pick one of the other right there, but they're all you kind of categorized into different groups of such sort. But still, that when we do think about that, then you're warned toward, oh, okay, yeah, that I usually go with the bigger number just because of what reason, just because. Well, the bigger number usually represents is toward that you have a better luck of chance about for how close you were with knowing about. Oh, okay, yeah, if you want to guess what category that the topic, but still that pick a number right here and guess what? And it's like yeah, I got something to get to you, and so yeah, so this right here was supposed to be like something like whenever I was looking at this, I was also thinking too, is toward besides the greeting card, that what does it usually mean when we read much much more right here, and people usually say is this toward yeah that if anybody has ever bought played at the lottery or played any sorts of activity game, that there will be prizes included, and so it's almost like at this right here was supposed to be like any sorts of activity game of some sort, like yeah, solving puzzles or maybe solving problems, right? But still, that knowing about it that you got right there is that pick a number right here and good luck right here, and so yeah, playtime is me time right here. But how many of us have really thought about that to where to create time? What I mean by is that if you want to pick a time, go ahead and pick a number now, but then later on you go ahead and yeah. So it's like so in case if anybody's going to be wondering is toward okay, how exactly do you play this activity game in general? And but let's just say that what you're basically are doing is that yeah, go ahead and pick a number, but then later on that winning number will be called, and then knowing about who wins the prize, right? So it's like a who selected, and so that's why it seems that way toward that when we talk about create time. What does it usually mean whenever you create time? Well, that means by is toward it that we're talking about data, if we're talking about that, solving a puzzle, solving any source of mystery it is. But still, let's just say that if we were to be playing any source of activity game right here that we're talking about is that, yeah, playing the game with the dog right here that they say is this tour that I got something to give to you. And so yeah, so I think everybody would even say that if you're going to be playing the games with, interacting with your pets, though, that they'll probably say it's this tour that, yeah, that what they're pretty much saying is like, anything impressive, right? I want to show you some tricks. And I think that more likely that that's probably what they're going to say is that, yeah, that if your dog were to be talking to you, then they say is toward it, yeah, I want to show you some tricks, some tricks that, that I can show you. And so it sure seems that way that whenever we talk about any source of activity game, right? And your word toward, oh, okay, yeah, that, so what is it that you were trying to show me in general? But, tricks. These tricks that I'm talking about is that, how well that you can do, that you can solve problems and how well that you can do things. You can put something together and you can actually, come up with a solution to any source of a math problem it is. But still, but I might say is to where that the way that you used to do multiplication tables back in the old days is that you used to always think is that yeah, you go ahead and take the bigger number and then add on top of the smaller number right here. And people may say is toward, oh, okay, yeah, and that's usually how you did your math right there, right? Is that you would actually take the bigger number. I'm like, yeah, take two numbers or so, and then you would add them all together. You multiply, and in case of anybody's wondering, is toward it, yeah, how exactly is it that you used to multiply? You would actually multiply your numbers by, toward it. You would actually take the bigger number and then add about three more on top of that. So if this right here was supposed to be like any source of math problem, no, and you're warned toward, oh, okay, yeah, that the way that I did this math problem right here is I would go ahead and pick a number right here. So if I were to pick a number, and let's just say if it would show up right here, that you go ahead and pick a number right there, and at the very top right there, that you would put a number such as 4 times 2 or something like that. And so something like that, you would put something like that right there, and that you would rewrite that math problem to something like that. And people may want to know too is toward, oh, okay, I'm trying to figure out here what you did there. Is that how did you come up with that equation? Like, well, what we did right here is that what we did right here is that we add in with the numbers right here that see here if I can get that right there. Yeah, let's see here. Trying to put it, yeah, put on here is that is it 3? So let's say 3 right there. Yeah, make sure that's a 3 right there. So if I were to add any numbers right here in 102, is that go ahead and add a number right there. So yeah, so if I were to do any sort of math problem right there in people 102, that you would go ahead and pick the number right there, and let's just say that it'll be 8, between 8 and 10, and then 6 and 9 right here. You would go ahead and pick a group number between those numbers, but then you would go ahead and add this, the 3 and the 2 right there. So it sure seems that way that people may want to know too that, oh, okay, so the way that you're doing this right here, that you're rounding these numbers, you're making, are you trying to make the numbers bigger or smaller, or are you trying to put them into groups? Because I guess the way that you would actually do that, in case if anybody's wondering, that did the studies here about typical math right here, that do you think that maybe dogs would maybe say is toward, okay, this is how we're going to go ahead and do the math problem right here, is that if you were to actually put these into groups right here, that yeah, so that's more likely a division, like fraction, like a fraction type problem or so, and so you begin to warn toward it that whenever you do the math right here, are you trying to find a bigger number or denominator or something like that, or are you trying to put it into groups? Because people might even tell you too that I don't know. Do you think that maybe dogs would even be curious to know as to where that these numbers, one of the numbers looks a little bit bigger than what it actually is. You got right here's a 5 and a 7, but still, what number appears to be a lot smaller than compared to the other numbers, and that the number that I see that is much smaller is the 5, right? But you always want to know too is that yeah, that why do you think that maybe 5 would go into, yeah, so if we would actually do the math right here in 102 is toward it, yeah, show you a trick about the things that you can do, but still, that every time you do think about that, playtime is me time right here. Is toward yeah, you're trying to make the numbers. Are you trying to make the numbers equal? Are you trying to make the numbers bigger or smaller? And by say that yeah, whenever you first look at a number right here, and you're always wondering toward oh okay yeah that I would like to know that why would you want to spend so much time trying to read the data right there and think as to which number is bigger or smaller, because if we're talking about with whatever number that's going to be bigger or smaller, but everybody might say is toward yeah, you would go ahead and if you were to guess a number between 5 and 11, you would maybe go with the smaller number, and maybe the chances are that yeah, well, what's the probability that you could be wrong about that guess right there than compared to the 8 and the 10 and maybe the 6 and the 9 right here. And so that's why it seems that way toward okay, what category do you think that maybe that would go by, is this toward if you want to take a guess of what the number is. And let's just say that yeah, if you were to take a guess on something for sure, but people might even say that is toward if you're pretty close or not, but still, how do you even know that if one of these numbers are going to be bigger or smaller? But still, that you're thinking is toward yeah. If anybody want to say is toward you want to go ahead and show somebody something pretty impressive, for sure that you go ahead and say is this toward yeah. That's how I learned how to do my math problems. Is I would actually put these numbers into these bubbles like if they're buttons right here. I would fit them into different categories right here, and that's how I learned how to count right there. I would put a few of them in order. But that's how I learned how to count right there. Is I would put them into groups, and that's how I would count. And so sure, see, yeah, to keep them memorized. And I think a lot of people would say is to where that's how you kept the numbers memorized. Is that that's how you pictured them. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. But still, but talk about for create the time, and you think as to where okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and say as to where that by midnight that this is how much I would like to know about it. But still, it shows something impressive, right? But much more right here. But anybody might even say as to where the playtime is. Guess what? It's like, yeah, about how much have you been able to work out, so far as how much impressive, right? For much more right there. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone.